From WDWNT, the worldwide leader in Disney Parks news, this is ParksCenter. Hello, folks. How's it going out there? My name is Ben. It has been a very long night for us here. We're recording this live at 12:45 in the morning Eastern.
Sweet sassy molassy.
Ben is getting over strep, so he's a hero.
It's fine. We've got Whitney here with us tonight.
Hi, guys.
Got Ron.
Good morning.
Got Peter.
Oh, hello.
And Jill.
Hello.
All right, folks, let's get this thing rolling with our first topic of the night. Just a quick recap of what's going on. My apologies for the lack of a technical this heads-up display for this, but let's just run down what's happened here for the entirety of the night. I've got notes. So starting off with our Sweet 16, we've got Seven Dwarfs Mine Train versus Haunted Mansion. Originally 12-9 from the panelists after a bunch of call-ins settled down to 18-19 in favor of Mansion. Carousel of Progress versus Soarin' coming out 21-0.
What?
First round with a single call-in for Soarin' out of pity. Frozen v Space Mountain being 9-12 in favor of Space Mountain initially, but call-in votes saving that, bumping it up to 15-12. Big Thunder Mountain versus Pirates of the Caribbean coming out 15-6 by the panelists. One call-in, 15-8, but that is not going to make it. Tower of Terror versus Star Tours 18-3. A single call-in tried to help but couldn't do anything. 18-5 is the final score. Everest versus Safari. This was a bit of a call-in war here.
That was fun.
15-6 in favor of Safari, but after 4 different call-ins, it ends up 21-16 in favor of Safari. Avatar, Flight of Passage versus Muppets, 15-6. Not a single person tried to touch it. Same thing with Splash versus TTA, 15-6 going to Splash. Pushes us into our e-ticket 8. First match of the e-tickets, it's going to be Mansion versus Carousel of Progress, coming out 18-3 for Carousel.
What?
In a massive upset. A couple call-in votes, not enough to change anything, ending 22-5, even stronger for Carousel after the call-ins. Frozen and Big Thunder Mountain playing each other next, 15-6 from the panelists. One call-in, not enough to help, 15-8 the final score. Tower of Terror versus Safari, 18-3. Not a single person could even try to call in to save that match. Going to Tower for sure.
All the animal people go to sleep at 7 p.m. when the park closes.
And our last match of the top 8, that's Flight of Passage versus Splash. 12-9 in favor of Flight of Passage initially, but with a massive call-in, 18-13 Flight of Passage moving on.
Okay.
Bringing us to our our Phantasmic 4. It's our so Carousel of Progress and Frozen. The first match of the 4, 12-9 favor of Carousel. But call-in saved Frozen, pushing it 13-12, moving it on to the finals. Meanwhile, Flight of Passage fights against Tower of Terror, wins 13-8 from the panelists, and not a single person tried to call in to change that. So that makes our final match of the night, Frozen to Flight of Passage.
The cold never bothered me anyway. Here we go.
21-0 Flight of Passage. Frozen gets there to the end and just lets it go.
Lets it go.
Couple call-ins happen. People just throwing their calls away here, throwing it in with Flight of Passage. Honestly, comes out 27, the highest score of the entire bracket, to a measly 2.
Wow.
Sivako!
Yeah. All right, let's talk. So, Flight of Passage winning this whole thing. Flight coming in first. what's people's thoughts about that? Like, I'm honestly pretty daggone stoked by this. I am a big fan of this ride, and I am super glad to see it get this far. What other people have to say here?
I just find it fascinating that our final two wound up as Frozen and Flight of Passage. I mean, it makes sense when you go in and look at the park. Any average park guest would not have any issue with this matchup because these are the rides they rope drop. It does stun me that was the final two from this panel of, diehard Disney fans, people who appreciate the classics, and yet both of these rides have been open for less than 2 years each. But yeah, at the end of the day, Flight of Passage over Frozen, that being a blowout with the panel was the right choice.
Yeah, there's no contest between the final two. I think the real final was Tower versus Flight of Passage, which are still the best two attractions that we have. And I think it was unfair to compare it to the Guardians Tower, which was what Tom did to go at the end. But
pause for a minute and talk about how frustrated I am now with how much Disneyland got brought up in all of these conversations.
So sick and tired of people comparing Disneyland to Walt Disney World in a Walt Disney World challenge. So
exactly.
if there was no Disneyland ride,
Disneyland has nothing to do with any of these whatsoever.
God forbid the ride is good enough to be duplicated and brought to the West Coast, that it was compared here, which is not fair. Totally agree with Jill. It was ridiculous. I'm sitting quiet. I'm letting everyone else go right now. I'm gonna let you guys do your thing. Go ahead.
Save your
energy.
energy.
It's uneven. If we were using that standard, Pirates should go out in round one if you're going to compare the two of them.
Exactly. And
in that case, then Carousel of Progress should have won.
Whoa, Whitney. I mean, you know what?
It has no comparison on.
It doesn't. If we're going to compare Disneyland to all of these rides, which we're not supposed to be doing, then Carousel of Progress should have at least made it to the final two.
Listen, you're over 21. You're allowed to drink. I'm going to let you do what you do. But Flight of Passage, let's go back to the original question. It's an obvious W. Very happy for Flight of Passage. This is the future of Walt Disney Entertainment, Walt Disney Imagineering, where they also combine with another production company. And when you see when great minds come together, it's a complete ride. It is still Walt Disney. It still immerses you. It was 100% the ride that should have won. We said this out of the gate here on ParksCenter, and I'm super happy it won. That's it.
Tom gave a pretty convincing soliloquy about why Flight of Passage is so great there at the end. And I couldn't disagree with anything he said other than...
Who would think that Tom would be right about something?
Right. Although he did kind of give the pre-show a little bit more validity than I think it deserves, but that's just me. But outside of that, yeah, it's a technologically amazing ride, and it's the future of what Disney attractions are going to be. They both are. Frozen and
I think Ron said it best. The real fight was the round before, Tower of Terror versus Flight of Passage.
Although Tower only got one vote in that round, that wasn't a huge. I agree that it was kind of two of the best attractions in the parks.
Well, let's keep in mind that
let's keep in
mind that our panel had to get to bed by 10 p.m. That's when they do the last call with the Jello and the water, so that way they can get it, because they have to get to bed on time. The Tower of Terror versus Flight of Passage was the best battle. And you know what? Ultimately, Flight of Passage is the future, so well done.
Speaking of getting to bed on time, let's move on to our next category before we're up all night. Cinderella Carousel. Carousel Progress being our UMBC here, going way farther than anybody thought they had any right to. My goodness, that was...
Hey, that's not true. I
watch.
called that last week.
Wait,
I
really?
said that I thought Carousel of Progress might make it to the end, and they got pretty far, so I'm proud of that. I mean, I'm happy for that Flight of Passage won. I'm not saying that Carousel has the right to beat it out, but I'm pretty happy it made it as far as it did.
All right, listen. I put this in our little group chat, and I think the whole world needs to know. If, for any reason, I said I have to eliminate a ride, there's no more, we don't have enough room, I'm going to take Haunted Mansion out of the park forever, or Carousel of Progress out of the park forever. where do you think the uproar would come from? It's going to be Haunted Mansion.
I
People
agree.
would lose
I totally
their
agree
minds.
with that.
I think it's ridiculous that Carousel beat Mansion. I just
And
I
on the
get it. Walt's heart is in it. I understand, but I can't.
What was above the Haunted Mansion too? Sorry, Ron. Go ahead.
And on the criteria that the final scene in Mansion doesn't ever work. I've never had it not work, but I don't go as much as Tom and Jason. But this last scene of Carousel hasn't been touched in forever. It's so
the last scene of Carousel was the year I was born. It may as well be me jumping out on the stage being like, I'm here. Welcome to 1984.
Carousel has no real pre-show, which is such a significant part of what we judge so many of these attractions on. And it has nothing. It has no queue. And that's such a huge factor for all these other attractions. And yet Carousel doesn't have any of that, and it manages to squeak by.
You can make an argument that the first scene is kind of a pre-show where it's explaining the history of the attraction.
I love
but
the
it's not a
nostalgia
show,
factor.
it's just audio.
I love the nostalgia factor, and Carousel of Progress is something where I tell people and I go, listen, and this is literally when they're there for the first time, you might not be entertained, but this is what Disney's all about. And I say, imagine going back 50 years and this ride is turn of the century. Now, granted, I don't have to give that warning when I take people on Haunted Mansion. For me, I love Carousel of Progress, but Haunted Mansion, come on, stop it.
I find it fascinating that Carousel of Progress was the last Magic Kingdom attraction to make it in the tournament.
Crazy.
And
that is a little wild.
Pirates and Mansion and Jungle Cruise and Splash, and yet Carousel of Progress is the one that makes it furthest.
It's as quintessential Magic Kingdom as any of those, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only ride that they don't even clone; they move because it's too much to clone it. They actually just pick it up and move it somewhere.
It's like me when I fall asleep.
God forbid we clone Pete Carney.
No one wants to clone this. No, it's terrible.
There's only one Pete.
What do we got next?
We got Pirate and Thunder here. This was a bit of a fight, to be honest with you. Pirates versus Big Thunder, 15-8. I was expecting there to be a lot more call-ins on this, and I know there were a lot of opinions in chat about this fight. What do you all have to say about it?
This
I
whole
didn't
thing.
know. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, this whole conversation, no matter how many people said, well, despite the change, blah, 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 this whole conversation was entirely tainted by the fact that the redhead scene just got taken out and just reopened within the last couple of weeks.
Thank you.
I can't see, and all of the quote unquote, if this had been 2 weeks ago, comments like made that abundantly clear. I'm sorry, I can't understand. I love Big Thunder Mountain. I thought it was atrocious that Tom at one point said that Frozen Ever After is more Disney than Big Thunder Mountain.
Oh.
Big Thunder Mountain is one of those rides that I remember from the very first time I went to Walt Disney World when I was a kid. That nostalgia factor, that everything. It was, what we got out of Western River Expedition. And yet that's not Disney enough, which makes no sense to me. But at the same time, all that aside for Big Thunder Mountain, I can't believe that it beat Pirates. That's insane to me.
I will say the same argument again. We have to remove a ride. We either take Big Thunder out or we take Pirates out of the park. If you took Pirates out of the park, people would lose their friggin' minds.
People lost their minds when it wasn't there. That's why we got it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
It's part of why we don't have Western River, right?
No,
because they had to stop production on Western River to put in Pirates because so many people were outraged when Disney World opened that there was no Pirates.
Redhead scene, no redhead scene. She's selling chickens. We're showing her larboard side. We're getting chickens by the pound. We don't care. It's Pirates of the Caribbean. This is amazing. How does it lose to Big Thunder Mountain? Now, granted, I love Big Thunder Mountain. It would have won amongst almost all the other rides. But come on, Pirates losing to Big Thunder? Come on. I know it's the wildest ride in the wilderness, but I will always go Pirates over Big Thunder. I'm just saying.
I like Big Thunder strictly because when you ride it at night, you can see a really great view of the castle.
That is a really good
When
point.
we had paper fast passes, we always rope dropped running to Big Thunder to get the paper fast passes. We didn't do that for Pirates of the Caribbean.
Well, Pirates, for the longest time, you pretty much used to be able to walk on, and now you can't anymore. That's been a change in the last 5 or so years, I think.
Yeah, that's FastPass Plus ruined that because that attraction has such capacity, it doesn't need it. But here's the way I'll put it. Pirates is Disney. Thunder Mountain is a Disneyfied version of another ride.
Yes, thank you.
You could have that. You could have had that at Knott's, and they added some scenes. It's a great ride. I love it, but once again, we don't have the best of either of these. So, I think at least our Pirates is, something unique.
Yeah, that's fair. Moving on to pretty much. I'll open the floor up a bit here. We got a few minutes. What was the one thing you want to talk about that we haven't covered and that we probably won't get to cover? Anyone? I know people have been taking notes. I know we've got ideas.
I have a few. You guys go ahead because I might
I
actually
see Pete roll with this.
All right. Well, I have a few. One, Space Mountain lost to Frozen? Are you kidding me? Are we talking about Maelstrom 2.0 losing to Space Mountain? That's ridiculous, especially with this panel, all nostalgia. Look at us. Oh, let's just roll into this ride on our ECV and wait. We're handicapped. We want a 5-minute wait. Listen, panel, you're out of your friggin' minds. Next, moving on. The Safari Everest battle, I loved it. I'm happy you need the result. I'm just happy that happened. Both rides, unbelievable. Everyone who was involved. Next, love Flight of Passage. Splash Mountain TTA. Thank God Splash won. Splash is unbelievable. Love it. The Splash versus Flight of Passage, totally get it. But Splash didn't get its due. It actually went way too fast. Splash is amazing. I still want a Flight of Passage to win the whole thing. But Splash is still, in my opinion, the best ride at the Magic Kingdom. Hands down. Any age, any group, any time of the year. It is a 10.5-minute ride, which is worth every single dollar. You're entertained the entire time. That's all I have. Go.
One of the most frustrating matchups to me was Carousel of Progress versus Frozen, because I think Nick said it and it kind of came up over and over again. Oh, well, I think Frozen's the future, and Frozen's going to be a ride that people 25 years from now are going to look back on with nostalgia and blah, blah, blah. And I was just like, how can you compare a ride that has been open for less than 2 years to a ride that has been open since the park opened and say that they're going to have the same nostalgia factor?
Yeah.
Like, how can you say that? Especially when Frozen is not an original new ride. Like, yes, they changed so much of what Maelstrom was, but at the heart of it, it's still Maelstrom. And that's what people are still have nostalgia for today, not Frozen. And I thought that was a spurious argument.
Am I the only one who doesn't like the projection map faces, by the way? I think they're
I'm on board.
Yeah, it's
I'm on board
Uncanny
here.
Valley for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like
doesn't
watching
excite me like it excites a lot of other people.
It's like watching my
creepy.
own soul.
To me, it just screams we're too cheap to build an animatronic face.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially when you look at it compared to, say, the Shaman in River Journey, and just the difference in quality there of the realness of how that animatronic feels.
I feel like it may have been rushed just so they could get a Frozen ride in the park.
Well, that's
It also, I think that's a great possibility. I also think its versatility is that, like, you could also change that at any time. So they could change the song, the facial expressions, they can change anything they want and still make the ride the same ride. And it doesn't matter what they say. You say, hey, welcome to Epcot, you crazy guys. Let's have a good time. It doesn't matter what they say, especially now with the new Frozen musical. And if there's a Frozen 2, they could change those songs at any point with the facial expressions.
That's a fair point. Moving on to just the last bit here, March Tragic. Didn't have time to update the graphic, unfortunately, here, but good grief, what was the winner here? It was Epcot's, wasn't it?
No, because money.
because money beat
because money
Epcot's.
pulled it out at the last minute, right?
Yeah.
Because money is the winner, and the rest of us are all losers.
Thoughts, comments.
I still don't know what this shirt's gonna look like.
Tom
Although Tom
says
said
he
he
has it. He has it figured out. But yeah, that's a good point. I was thinking about that more after we talked about it last week, and I just have no idea where this could go.
I
But
definitely
I
see
did
this
like
being-
did we mention the Helvetica shirt making because money and then listing parking fees or resort parking fees and a whole list of things underneath it? Didn't we talk about that?
we were
last
talking
week?
about that, yeah, online.
Yeah, that would have
Yeah,
been
I think if it said because money in different park lettering of attractions or actual park lettering, and then something along the lines of either on the back or the front, things that are extras being listed, and then some kind of tagline underneath. I don't know. And Tom, we trust, right? We'll see what happens.
Iger diving into the money bin.
Like Scrooge
Man,
McDuck.
that's pretty good. I'll be honest. What I want to see is something a couple people in chat suggested, which is we combine the two together of Epcot's and Because Money. Like the two concepts go together so well. I feel like you could put like either both together on the same shirt or one on the front, one on the back. I
It makes sense. It could just say Epcot's equals Because Money. Like that's what Epcot is.
Like Because Money is the tagline of Epcot now.
Exactly. Like it's not the original dream. Like Walt came to Florida for Epcot, not Magic Kingdom. And granted, his brother had to change it around and things happened, but Epcot is nothing near what it should have been even when it would opened, now let alone Because Money. Who knows? We'll see what happens.
All right. I think that's going to do it for most of tonight, but I just wanted to very quickly touch on the fact that ParksCenter is going to be sticking around after March Madness is over. We're going to be having our first regular show 2 weeks from today, and we're going to be coming out every week after that, plus or minus. So come back, see us on April 4th. I believe the current plan is that we are going to be live streaming for WIGS members with shows showing up the next day on our YouTube stream for everyone else to see. So we will be free to watch, but if you want to watch live with us or get in the chat, I recommend go check out WIGS. Go get on board with it.
And WIGS can also suggest a topic too. So if you're not a WIGS member, or if you are, it's a way to get involved with the show as well. Definitely get involved. And then for everyone else, you'll get us, the next morning or the next day. But yeah, go get involved.
Yes, and we're keeping that Wednesday night time slot alive. So for those of you who miss news tonight, this is not news tonight, unfortunately, but we'll bring you some news.
And we can complain just as much.
You get me getting mad at Tom, and he's out of his friggin' mind half the time. What is that guy thinking?
I guarantee there'll be bad jokes on this too.
Oh, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
It's a little news tonight. It's a little see you real late. It's a little the podcast. We'll try to make a little something for everybody.
And that's one of the key things. We're going to try and keep it little, keeping it under 30 minutes as much as we can, covering the hottest news stories from the past week and a nice, enjoyable bite size.
Love it.
That being covered, thank you all for watching ParksCenter with us. If you're up live with us, thank you. You're insane, and so are we. Appreciate you all coming and staying with us this late. Have a good night, folks. Enjoy.